Hello, this is Blue Star, Defender of Equestria, and this is finally my video on who is the greater villain, Sunset Shimmer or the Sirens. Just to recap on my previous video, I think what makes a great villain is one that can commit great acts of evil with or without special powers, and being able to attack the mind, the body, and the heart. Also that intelligent villains are always the more threatening, since they can continue to be a threat even without their power. I would also like to add that a true villain is never disarmed. So, on that basis, I think that the greater villain is Sunset Shimmer. Simply because she can be a threat with or without magic, and ruled Canterlot High with careful planning, deception, and manipulation. While the Sirens pretty much busted down the front door and seduced everyone primarily with brute power. Uh-oh. As Blue Star said to Shining Armor in my headcanon of the Season 4 finale, I'm gonna die, aren't I, Shining Armor? Oh dear. Honestly, this started when I heard that everpony thought that the Sirens were far more effective villains, and I thought, well, that's not really fair, they have magic already. Furthermore, it doesn't take a great villain to be a villain when you have this kind of power already, especially in a world that doesn't have the ability to deal with that kind of power. Besides, when Sunset Shimmer did have magic, both in Equestria and Canterlot High, she proved to be a very serious threat. But moving away from those kind of things now, when it comes down to it, Sunset Shimmer really was meant to be the ultimate school bully, while the Sirens, for the most part, are a super powerful, magical villain that honestly doesn't really belong in Canterlot High. It's sort of like comparing the high school boy to, well, someone like Darth Maul, who, yes, has a lot of brute power, but in the Clone Wars actually does have a lot of cunning and manipulation abilities as well. I do have to say that in a way Rainbow Rocks is rewriting the rules about magic rather than breaking them. But even so, placing such a magically powerful villain like the Sirens in the human world feels really inappropriate and, to a point, cheating. Obviously, a character like the Sirens would be far more immediately threatening, since they already have all these powers that no one in this world can deal with. In the MLP universe, only magic can defeat magic! So, this isn't an unfair fight. This isn't a fight at all. This kind of villain is fine in Equestria, that's within the rules of Equestria, but in Canterlot High, this just feels out of place, and again, honestly, to a point, cheating. Granted, there are plenty of villains like that throughout the media, but in my opinion, these kind of villains don't rank very high on the list of the greatest villains ever. Especially in this case, there actually is a defense against this power that doesn't involve magic, and that's wearing headphones? So in theory, the humans could defeat the Sirens by just putting on some headphones, walking up to them, and then punching them clean in the head. Well, that's kind of lame. It would be kind of like being able to defeat the Jedi mind trick by wearing tinfoil on your head. I do have to say that while the Sirens do show they have some cunning and manipulation and deceit and can nudge people the way that they want them to, Rainbow Rocks itself isn't even trying to pretend they are not succeeding primarily through brute power. After the Lunchroom scene, Sunset Shimmer doesn't say, "I can't believe they convinced everyone to fight each other." She says, "Those three are definitely in possession of some kind of dark magic. How else do you explain what happened back there? So without their magic, they are no threat. Rainbow Rocks said so."
Without those pendants and the magic you brought here from Equestria, they're just three harmless teenage girls.
In summary, it's really the Sirens' magic that is threatening, not themselves. However, this is not the case with Sunset Shimmer, because even when all her power is taken away, everything that truly makes Sunset Shimmer a threat and a villain is still intact, because those things are her cunning, deceit, and intelligence, and patience. It appears that not even the elements of harmony can take those things away, but hopefully they might have helped to open her eyes to a far brighter path. Anyway, Sunset Shimmer proved that even though it took time, she was able to rule the school by making everyone fear her and what she might do to them. Even in Rainbow Rock, some of the students still fear her and are suspicious of her, since she could go back to her evil ways and possibly take over the school once again. On the other hand, I don't think anyone would be too concerned if the Sirens ever returned to Canterlot High. In fact, I don't think they'd even care and probably just tell them to get lost or just ignore them entirely. Also, being able to gain power the way Sunset Shimmer did took time, patience, planning, and, well, work. Just like my favorite villain, Darth Sidious, who carefully manipulated the passions and prejudices of an entire people to ultimately become the Emperor of the Galaxy. The thing I really liked about Darth Sidious is that he could have just been a politician without force powers at all, and he still could have become the Emperor. Although defeating 4 Jedi Masters would be kind of difficult. However, in the end, he didn't have to, since through time, deceit, and patience, he was able to turn even the Chosen One to his side. If Darth Sidious were the Sirens, he would have walked into the Senate arena and tried to mind trick everyone to vote for me. Even if this had worked, this would make him a really lame villain since, well, it might show how powerful he is. It lacks any kind of subtlety, planning, or dare I say, effort. Or, to put it another way, anyone with that kind of power could do the same thing, which again is really lame. Only Darth Sidious has the cunning, deceit, and patience to convince people to vote for him of their own free will. Oh my gosh, I've forgotten whose side I'm on! Oh no! Ugh. Anyway, getting back to MLP, in short, Sunset Shimmer is definitely closer to Darth Sidious than the Sirens, since all the Sirens did was essentially bust down the door, sing a song, seduce everyone in sight, and then basically rinse, lather, repeat. It took all of a day to do this, with no real effort or planning, as even Area Blaze says, "So we're just gonna do what we always do? Some plan, Adagio." On the other hand, Sunset Shimmer had to gain control through years of moving up the ranks, with careful planning and deceit, and being able to split people apart when necessary and know what to do to gain popularity, just like Darth Sidious. Sunset Shimmer had to perform actual work to achieve her control and power, not to mention go into enemy territory to retrieve the crown in the first place. Furthermore, she would have actually succeeded if she hadn't tripped over Spike's tail, which, yeah, I guess is kinda lame. However, despite that setback and the other minor setbacks that were to come, it's not game over for Sunset Shimmer, since this hardly phases her because she's able to adjust her plan accordingly. Even when she knows that she's not going to win Princess of the Fall Formal and not get the crown at all, she continues to be a threat by forcing Twilight with the sadistic choice of giving her the crown or being trapped at Canterlot High forever. Oh, the horror, I tell you! This only fails because I don't think she ever expected Twilight to be so selfless and sacrifice her own desires for the good of a world she barely knows. Way to go, Princess Twilight. I'm so proud of you. Even after this plan fails, we do see her immediate shock and disappointment and, uh-oh, what am I gonna do? But then we quickly see her trying to find a way to deal with the situation. It's still not game over for Sunset Shimmer. It's only game over for Sunset Shimmer basically when she decides it's over. It's not because she can't be threatening, she just doesn't want to be a villain anymore. Good for her. On the other hand, it's game over for the Sirens the instant they lose their power, since without it, they can't do anything. Again, Rainbow Rocks said so. I say this a lot because it seems to me they're kind of like hypnotists, that they could put you in this mode where they can nudge you and guide you to do certain things, but without that, they can't do anything. If the Sirens are in the same situation that Sunset Shimmer was in, they wouldn't be able to do anything. They wouldn't be able to have the kind of cunning and the deception to go and make people do things of their own free will. They just don't have that ability. Character and motivation-wise, Sunset Shimmer definitely wins here as well, since I do have to say her motivations are not as straightforward as the Sirens. They are definitely the more interesting. In a way, their motivation to gain power is the same, but the reasons behind why are very different. The Sirens are just trying to get back power they've lost already, while Sunset Shimmer is trying to get power that she thinks she rightfully deserves. I think Sunset Shimmer's motivations are definitely the more interesting, and at the very least, more complicated than the Sirens. Character-wise, I think it's ironic that people complained about, oh, how Sunset Shimmer, she's too much like the cliche, selfish, high school boy / being girl, we don't like that. When that really describes the Sirens a whole lot better. Not only that, that's exactly what these characters are. They're definitely the high school bully / mean girl, with the exception of that they've been given magical powers so they can be even more hurtful and more mean and be even more like boys. I really hate them. There's no doubt that Sunset Shimmer is definitely meant to be a high school boy / mean girl, but it's definitely way more complicated than that. As she says, she doesn't want to rule this pathetic high school. She wants Equestria. Mostly because she thinks that she deserves to, and that it is her right to rule. Whereas the Sirens primarily just want popularity and people to adore them in a selfish, cliché, teenage girl way. Ironically, the Sirens, despite being much older than Sunset Shimmer, feel much less mature. They really do feel like a bunch of self-absorbed, and I must say, unsympathetic, arrogant teenage girls. Oh, by the way, I don't mean any offense to teenagers out there. I was a teenager once, but I'm glad I grew out of it. Anyways, I've said before, I'm surprised that they can get anything done in fighting the way that they do, since this shows that they clearly only have their own interests at heart and are not really a true team or anything like that. It's just surprising. It's almost a contradiction. I think their infighting would probably, in the end, bring them down, just like it almost brought down the main six. On the other hand, Sunset Shimmer feels a lot more mature on top of things and sort of like an evil genius rather than an arrogant, selfish teenager. Also, Sunset Shimmer's interactions with Twilight were fairly interesting, and ironically, the Sirens don't ever address the main six in any meaningful way, so I think in short, Sunset Shimmer isn't as straightforward as the Sirens, but I think that's exactly why I like her, because she's more than she appears. The only things I can give the Sirens is that they are definitely the way more immediately threatening and definitely the enemy I love to hate, since they clearly are so evil and hostile, and they might even win the prize for the most evil characters in the entire series. The Sirens might also represent some interesting metaphors, perhaps how some pop singers want everyone to adore them. They do have a good singing voice, but it's just a shame that they decide to use it for evil purposes. So in conclusion, Sunset Shimmer to me is definitely the greater villain, because whether she has magic or not, she can be a serious threat, because not only does she know how to use magic, but she also knows how to use cunning and deceit to drive people apart, and ultimately was able to use these things to rule an entire high school. However, the Sirens put in the same situation would not be able to do any of this, since they lack the subtlety and the cunning to manipulate people without putting them in this sort of hypnotic state that their magic allows them to do, and they're nothing without it. So it's their magic that's threatening, and not themselves. At the end of Rainbow Rocks, the only thing that made them a villain has been effectively taken away, and are effectively disarmed. Again, a true villain is never disarmed. Sunset Shimmer, on the other hand, was not, and in theory could go back to being a villain and rule Canterlot High once again. But fortunately, she has seen the error of her ways and decided to go down a far brighter path. Which honestly makes me happy, since I like Sunset Shimmer both as a villain and as the latest addition to the main six. So I look forward to seeing more of her and where the next part of her journey will take her. So that is finally the end of my video on who is the greater villain, Sunset Shimmer or the Sirens? Uh-oh, I think I've just made myself the enemy of the entire Brony community. So, if you don't hear from me again, it was nice knowing you, everpony. Tell Princess Twilight she can have my casters and all my notes on magic and machinery. Oh no, I can sense them coming. I think it's time for a strategic withdrawal to somewhere safer. Aha, I know just the place.
Well, it looks like it's another quiet, uneventful day here. What a perfect day to set up for a Comrade video. Yes! Wait, Why am I talking to myself, and why did I just say that? Every time someone says something like that, something...
Yes, they'll never find me here.
Wait a minute. What happened to my armor?
Unexpected happens.
Oh, hi there.
This is Blue Star. Stay strong.